Good evening. It's your favorite vampire podcast host, Lena Nazari. Before we get to tonight's episode, I just wanted to talk to you about something. Recently, I got to talk to the amazing Jack and Shane Townsend about a bunch of different things, but most importantly, about the movie that they are creating. This movie is a vampire romance, but it's not like anything you've ever seen before. It is fantasy inspired, and it is inspired by some of our favorite movies, you know, The Neverending Story, Labyrinth, Legend, Stardust, all those wonderful movies that we love so much. They would like to bring that back in their way. You can go right now to their Kickstarter. There's a link in the video description. It is going on until August 5th, and you can be a part of this campaign to help them bring to us the movie that they would like to bring, to honor the world that they have created, not just for themselves, but for all of the fans of the Vampire Jack universe. Go check it out, and thank you for joining.
I couldn't. I love the night. That's the only time I feel really alive.
That's what David wanted.
Blood, I was to find, was a necessity as well.
A vampire in love with a slayer. It's rather poetic. I am the monster the breathing men would kill. I am Dracula.
Good evening, my fellow vampire lovers. The sun is going down, and you know what that means. It's time for me to record another episode of my podcast, The Beautiful Dead. As always, I am your host, Lena Nazari, and come on, it's 2024. Just go find me on Instagram. It's The Beautiful Dead Podcast. I pretty much post everything on there now, so you won't miss too much. But if you'd like to go above and beyond, go to lenanazari.com, join my famed family, get emails from me, or if you really, really want to go above and beyond, go join my street team and help me get the word out on all my projects, my books, my appearances, new people coming on the podcast, all that cool stuff. You don't want to miss anything, especially because sometimes I can be impulsive and I will just last second pick a place to go. So if you want to be up to date, you really need to be part of my street team because they find out everything before anyone else. And sometimes they hear about stuff that never comes to fruition. So you can hear the way that my mind works. Tonight's vampire tea, in honor of the movie, is Steak This. It's a green tea, which I very much enjoy. And there are so many good jokes in this movie. So it was hard to pick, but I went, because of the Buffy joke, I went with my Buffy the Vampire Slayer mug here and Steak This for my tea. And if you missed my interview with Stavros, you can hear him talk all about his tea and being a fangsmith and his books and stuff on last week's episode. So make sure you go check that out. And also, interview with Vampire Jack Townsend. Come on. Make sure that you are subscribed so you don't miss all this stuff. Because again, I throw last second stuff on all the time. And I have so many amazing things in the works right now. You're really gonna miss out. And I get DMs and emails sometimes that are like, how did I miss this? Because you didn't subscribe and you don't turn on alerts so that you see when new stuff pops up. Okay, I am super, super excited to talk about this movie. So we're just gonna jump right in. I don't have that much to talk about right now. Because guys, it's summertime. So if you haven't put two and two together, summertime, not the best time for nocturnals, so I don't have a lot going on right now. But what I do have going on, and we're going to keep this July theme going of just gems, is we're talking about Slay. So here's what happened. Oh, spoiler alerts. If this is the first time you have ever tuned in, I do ruin everything. So just be prepared. But this movie Slay came up on Tubi. And I was sitting with my youngest next to me, and we watched the preview, and we were so intrigued, and I was like, turn it on, let's see what we got. And immediately just was like, oh, I'm definitely covering this one. Again, this is another one that doesn't really have a thorough synopsis, and I thought about just writing my own like I did with House Harker, but I just couldn't find the time. I'm so sorry. So very quick summary, and it's just the description of the movie pulled from IMDb, but if I ever have the time, I'll do it. Or if one of you wants to do a thorough synopsis, by all means. But here's the summary. After a booking mistake, 4 drag queens find themselves performing for a mostly unwelcoming crowd at a desert biker bar. But when vampires attack, the crowd looks to the queens to save the day. That's it. So I'm not the first one to say this. I mean, I thought it, and then I looked at IMDb and somebody else said it too, but the perfect way to describe this is From Dusk Till Dawn meets Tu Wong Fu. It's exactly as amazing as it sounds. So this will be a nice quick one today. If you decide that this is the one you want to listen to while you're on the treadmill, you're welcome, because this will be a quickie. Let's break down the universe of Slay from 2024. Vampire crossover. So none of these actors that I could find have been in any other vampire material, but I sure do hope to see them in future vampire movies, because I would love to see them again. Vampiric references. Oh boy, there were some amazing vampiric references in this. So many jokes. So one of our heroes says, "Ew, these vampires look nothing like the Cullens." Twilight. Someone said, "Considering that 2 of them just turned to dust, Buffy's looking real credible right now." Buffy the Vampire Slayer. When asked, what do we know about vampires? You know, the characters are kind of in a group, and they're like, what do we know about vampires? And one character says, if we're going by Interview with the Vampire rules, and she talks about like offering a goblet of blood or something, or Blade or Twilight, so we get lots of references. One of them says, and not a single one looks like Jason Patrick. So there is your Lost Boys reference. And then, this is amazing, they refer to From Dusk Till Dawn as the foot fetish movie. I had to pause because I was laughing so hard. And I'm pretty sure at the end, one of the queens, Bella, is wearing this white wig that is very reminiscent of old Dracula from Bram Stoker's Dracula. So I would be surprised if that wasn't an homage. And if anyone involved in the movie watches this, please let me know. Because as soon as she came around the corner, I was like, oh, that has to be an homage to Dracula. All right, relationship to humans. So in this universe, vampires exist because the group is naming off all of these vampire movies and books and TV shows. So obviously in this universe, much like ours, the idea of vampires exists. But most people don't think that they're real until they are faced with a vampire. So much like our world. And these vampires, man, they're just after humans for food. So there's no love affair happening in this or anything like that. The vampires are pretty much just looking to drink blood. Relationship to animals. This is never addressed. Which, I mean, it's like literally in the middle of the desert. Horrible place to get trapped in a bar. But you're not going to see a lot of animals out there. Appearance. The master in the beginning looks very much like the bat-human form of Dracula from Bram Stoker's Dracula, or, you know, I will post a picture on YouTube, but that is the first thing I thought of, was like, you know, Nosferatu / bat-human form of Dracula. The ones who are made from him, though, so he makes one who stumbles to the bar and then just makes a whole bunch of them. They are kind of like the minions, right? So they pretty much just have fangs, but then over the course of time, a couple of them start to get these prominent brows. And so same thing, you know, that tells me that over time, the vampires will look less and less and less human. That's how I took that. Fangs. 2 sharp extended canines, and they're out all the time, so they must not be retractable. Now, interesting fact that we haven't that I know of seen addressed in any other movie, but one of the bikers who gets turned does not have teeth. He's just gums. And then when he gets turned, 2 fangs show up. So that tells us the fangs are created by the vampire blood or the vampire virus and not an extension of human teeth. So I thought that was a super interesting fact that I don't think I've seen in anything else. So of course I had to like pause and write it down really quick because I'm a nerd. Blood, yes, they want blood. And we find out through the course of the movie that they could drink from animals and they can drink from the dead. Because at the end, and we'll get to this, one of the vampires who is a good guy goes back for food to go and is just like taking bits of human with her. So that tells us they can drink from the dead. Food. Once turned, they only want blood. Garlic does burn the vampires and repel them, and this is used beautifully, much like the House Harker reference that we saw with the sprinkler. One of the queens throws garlic into the water supply and then uses a flame to set off the overhead sprinklers in the bar and burns all of the vampires with garlic water. So we got to see in House Harker, they blessed the garden hose and used the sprinkler. In this, they dumped garlic into the water and then sprayed everybody with garlic water. Sunlight. So the movie opens with the master attacking the man in broad daylight. So I was like, I don't know. So it could have been towards dusk, or maybe the master was under cover somehow. So throughout the heroes' fight, it all happens in one night. They're like, as soon as we make it to dawn, we're going to be safe. However, we find out at the very, very end that the vampires can be in the sun. Sleep. So this all happens in a single night, so I'm not sure where they need to sleep, but since they can be in the sunlight, I don't think it really matters where they go to sleep. I don't think that they need to be in a coffin or on the soil of their homeland. I don't even know if they have to sleep. This is never addressed. Holy items. There is a fabulous church joke in this movie that, again, I laughed out loud and had to immediately jot it down. They pull a cross and the vampire says, crosses don't work. And then at one point throughout the film, one of our heroes says, oh, the church lied? That's so unlike them. Howling. The shade was perfection. Perfection. We all know how Lena feels about organized religion, so none of you will be shocked that I love a joke like that. Rules. Okay, so the group are trapped in the bar, and they're like, it's okay because they can't come in unless they're invited in. And the owner says, well, that's not going to work. And then they flash to a neon sign outside the bar that says, come on in. So, good joke. We saw that in Renfield with the welcome mat. We also know that the RV will actually work because one of the heroes is trapped in the RV, and the invitation rule works because the RV is considered a residence. They're sleeping in it. When the survivors recognize that they're fighting vampires, they all start to offer up what they know. So they all start to throw out, like, they can turn into bats, crosses, holy water, garlic. And most of it does eventually get addressed throughout the film, which me as a vampire movie reviewer and a fan, I was just like, oh, I love when they do this. I love when they explain the rules to me, when they address all of the usual stereotypes. It makes my life so much easier, and it also makes the writing feel so much more concise and appropriate. Powers. Heightened senses, we know that. He mentions at one point, I can smell your high blood pressure. That was interesting. Strong enough to throw a man, but not so strong that 2 men couldn't throw him out of the bar unless he let them do it. Bullets don't stop them, they're impervious to cold, and the master is extremely fast. How are they made? Okay, so our first made vamp suffers a bite from the master and sort of drops to the ground. Then later he rises, he's turned, he shuffles to the bar. I'm assuming like maybe over the course of an hour, because when he's attacked it's daylight, and then when he's stumbling to the bar it's night. However, we don't know how long he walked. I don't know, but I will tell you this. The maid vamp number 1 bites a man at the bar. He's pulled off by 2 others. Our second man is alive and upright. But over the course of a few minutes, he's not feeling so good, so he goes to the bathroom. He notices that he now has fangs, his eyes are red, and he craves blood. So then he bites another one, and so you can guess where this is going. So it's one bite, and then eventually the virus kicks in, and now you're a vampire. We know that they maintain some level of intelligence because a few of them speak, and they know to cut the phone lines outside of the bar. They know to let the air out of people's tires. They speak, they remember their friends' names. So there's still an intelligence and memories intact. And then the other thing that we know is it doesn't have to be a bite to the throat. It can actually be a bite to the arm, to the leg, it doesn't matter. So this type of vampirism is treated like a virus, which we have definitely seen, before. The other thing that we know is that some of them can maintain their control, and I will address that here in a minute. How do they die? So when they're staked through the heart, they burst into ash. A shotgun to the head or chest will work, so severing the brain or the heart, I guess, will work. We see a vampire die by a fork to the heart, which could be because it pierced the heart or could be because it's silver. It's a possibility. However, this doesn't seem like a bar that would have real silver. Just saying. No shade to the bar owner, but that makes me think piercing the heart is all you need to do. However, as a nurse, I'm just like, a fork piercing through the ribcage into the heart would be very, very difficult, but we're not a nursing podcast, we're a vampire podcast. When they die, they turn to ash. The rules are used excellently when one of the vampires is staked in the boob and they pull her implant out. And no shade to her because I have implants too. So when I was watching that, I was like, oh, added protection. So it was clear it has to be the heart, not the chest. So they pull out her implant and she's like, fucker, stab me in the titty. Again, howling, laughing. I was howling. So I see this as an advantage for me. If a hunter was ever coming after me, I have extra protection. Good luck, hunters. Heartbeat or breathing. So we know that the heartbeat after the bite will start to slow to the point of turning and then it stops. So that is addressed. As far as breathing, that one's not addressed. All right. Are they good or are they bad? So this is what I wanted to talk to you about. So as soon as they are turned, the vampires start turning on their friends. So they are immediately just filled with bloodlust, and all they want to do is get their hands on the people who are still living to drink their blood. However, we watch all of this happen and we think, uh-oh, the vampires are the bad guys. But then over the course of the movie, there are 3 good guys who get turned and maintain their goodness. They maintain their goodness in the fact that they don't try and kill their friends. They actually help their friends kill the rest of the vampires. So like we've said many times before on this podcast, in this universe, being turned into a vampire does not automatically make you bad. You can choose, are you going to be good or are you going to be bad? And one of the women who is turned, my favorite character, her and the bartender are my favorite. She takes the food to go, which is part of a human being that she's sucking the blood out of. So very funny. And when she steps out and realizes that she can be in the sunlight, she's like, I don't have to miss bikini season. They're like, you might want to get a new boob. But it's so funny. And then at one point in time, one of the queens is turned and she steps outside, or the sun hits her and she's sparkly, and they're like, is Twilight real? And she's like, no girl, I put on glitter. So I was howling laughing. So good. All right, tropes I love and tropes I hate. Let's start with tropes that I hate, and you're all not going to be surprised by this. I really hate the one bite is all it takes. You know I love a good, sexy, sensual embrace. However, for this movie, you needed a fast turn in order for the stakes, you know what I'm trying to say, for the stakes to be risen very quickly, very high. So I will allow it in this situation. You needed for the vampires to turn fast and easily for the heroes to be outnumbered and be in a bad situation. But personally, I like a good sexy embrace. I also don't like when my vampires are in the sunlight, but they made enough jokes in this situation that, again, I will allow it because it was funny. And the 3 heroes who are turned, I want them to be happy and I want them to have a good life. And so the fact that they can be in the sunlight, allows them for that, so I'll allow it. Tropes I love. I love when two different groups are pulled together against the common enemy and they have to overcome their differences to get through this bad situation. It is done so beautifully in this movie. The way that they're brought together, the contention in the beginning, the way that they have to overcome it, you know, the way that they kind of start to allow for each other's differences. Absolutely loved it. And I don't want to ruin too much because I really, really want you to go see this movie, but the bartender has this beautiful moment towards the end where he just like kind of gives in to who he truly wants to be, and I for real had like tears rolling down my face. I was so happy for him. So perfection. Let's do it. The ratings. All right. How scary or evil are the vampires of Slay? So they do spread extremely fast. They maintain their intelligence. They know enough to cut phone lines. They know enough to like get through open windows into the bar. You know, they know enough to cut tires. They are vicious, but they do need invited in, and they turn to dust when they're staked. So they can't fake being dead. There's no like, you think I'm dead and then I jump up and grab you. Like, if you're not dust, I'm gonna keep stabbing until you turn into dust. They're not bound by the sun, so that gives them a point. The couple of good guys who are turned shows us that you can actually maintain your goodness should you want to. So you're not bound by the vampire virus to be evil or full of bloodlust. I'm guessing bad people turn into bad vampires and good people turn into good vampires. That's how I'm taking that. That being said, I understand this is a comedy, but these are solid vampires. The heroes do have a good chance against them because the heroes themselves are also a pretty solid group. That being said, I'm going to give the vampires a 6 out of 10 stakes to the heart for scariness and evil. I mean, these are some solid vampires. Very good. And that's the thing, right? If you have to feel like the heroes are in big trouble. In order for that to happen, the enemy has to be solid. So, how sexy or alluring are the vampires of Slay? So this movie, like House Harker, makes a point to show that the vampires are not sexy. So they get their honorary vamp point. They are apparently just motivated by bloodlust and nothing else. Even the couple of good guys that turn and stay good don't suddenly become sexier or have any kind of special allure. So we'll give them the 1 vamp point. And I'm going to give them 1 point because they can hold their personalities and choose to not kill their friends should they want to. So I'll give them 2 out of 10 onks for sexiness and allure, and that's it. Like, becoming a vampire doesn't suddenly make you sexier in this world. If you're a sexy human turned into a vampire, a sexy vampire, but you don't get some kind of special allure, you are still just the person that you are. All right, my thoughts. This movie was so much fun. So much fun. I watched it because it popped up on Tubi. It was new, it was free. The preview had me intrigued. So like House Harker, 15 minutes into this movie, I was like, I found a gem. I told everybody I knew to watch it. Anyone I knew that would appreciate a vampire movie of this caliber, I told them, you need to watch this. The vampire jokes are perfect. But setting aside myself as a vampire nerd and a vampire fan, you know, the thing is if you decide as a writer that you're going to bring these 2 different groups together, you have to be a very solid writer. You need the big bad to be big and bad enough that these groups have to overcome their differences and work together. And not only do you need strong acting, but you need very strong writers. I mean, yes, not only do you need strong writers, but you need very, very strong actors who are going to buy into this world that you've created and make it real. And that's what we got in this. The interaction between all of the characters felt so genuine that it actually pulled you into this world, and you cared just as much about the characters as you did about them getting out of this situation. Like I said, by the end, when the bartender gets his big moment, I was crying. I was so happy for him. It makes comments about living in the LGBTQ community by using vampires. And I think that's very powerful. True Blood did that too. True Blood made some very strong comments about how groups get treated badly just because of being in that group. And they did that using vampires, and that's what Slay did too. They make these very strong comments about the community while giving you this fun vampire movie that has pulled you in and made you really care about these characters. I love supporting creativity. I love supporting small artists and small creators, and I love supporting different. I think we need to have more different. And I think that this movie really made you care about every person in this movie, whether you felt more inclined to be on the biker side or more inclined to be on the queen's side. In the beginning, by the end, you loved everybody. And wouldn't it be great if this world was exactly like this movie, where people can just put their differences aside, just support each other and care about each other. You don't have to be best friends, but you do have to care about what happens to the person next to you and help them if you can. And I just wish the whole world was like that. And so, don't be fooled. This is the world we live in right now. The only difference is the big bad that we're all facing is not vampires. But if we could all just come together and try and support each other through every day, no matter what they're facing, wouldn't that be so great? And that's what this movie does. It makes you care about people. It makes you care about people and want them all to survive and be happy and thrive. It doesn't cost you to go to Tubi and push play on this. It's free, okay? Go support this movie. I promise you, you're gonna laugh. If you might tear up at the end like I did, you're gonna internally applaud. I think you're gonna love it. But it doesn't cost you anything to just go push play on this movie and support it, and tell all your friends to support it too. And I 100% will be watching this movie again. It's gonna go in my rotation. It might come up every June. I might have a party and bring people over and we're gonna watch this because I loved it. I've already watched it again. I've already watched it twice. So, okay, I've rambled enough about this. I've made myself abundantly clear. Go watch House Harker. Go watch Slay. You will not regret it. I promise you, you're gonna laugh and you're gonna feel good and you're gonna be supporting people who should be supported, because we need more creativity out there. We need more people who take this old idea and put a new twist on it. Now, next week, speaking of old, we're going to finish out July with a movie from 1960 that I have not seen in a while, so I'm excited to go back and watch it. And that is a classic Hammer horror called The Brides of Dracula. So let's see if it holds up under the scrutiny of a vampire nerd who has a podcast and loves to tear apart vampire writing. In the meantime, please go follow me on Instagram, subscribe to my YouTube or my podcast so that you don't miss anything new. If you've never seen Brides of Dracula, go watch it. It's a classic. And again, it's on Tubi. It's free. So pop some popcorn, watch House Harker, watch Slay, and watch Brides of Dracula, and then come back in a week and join me as we wrap up June, and hopefully we can start to see the end of this god-awful, devil himself brought heat, because it is hard to be a goth in the summertime. But I wish you wicked hugs and bloody kisses. Good evening.
And big finish. Thank you.